Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're going behind the scenes. We're taking a look at video content from TikTok. Specifically, the account is called The Plant Slant.
Yeah, the plant slant. And we're going deeper than just, likes and views and all that surface stuff.
Right. We've got some pretty cool data analysis to work with. Stuff about, like, what's actually in the videos,
Exactly. We're looking at what they're saying, how they're saying it, all of that. Why some things might connect with viewers and others, well, maybe not so much.
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. We've got 67 video posts from The Plant Slant in this analysis. But here's the kicker. None of them, and I mean none, were classified as high performing.
Yeah, it is kind of surprising. I mean, they've got a decent following. Engagement seems pretty good overall, but they haven't really hit, viral status.
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right? What's holding them back?
That's what we're here to figure out.
Okay, let's dive in. Where do we start with all this data?
Well, let's look at some specifics, some actual examples from the Plant Slant. How about we start with a post from July 2023.
July 2023, okay.
So in this one, the Plant Slant is doing a critique, They're using that split screen format to kind of go back and forth with another influencer, a guy named Bobby.
Oh, interesting. Another influencer. What, like a collab gone wrong?
Not exactly. Bobby, he does food content. And the Plant Slant is basically calling him out on some stuff, pointing out contradictions. It's actually pretty funny. He uses a lot of sarcasm.
Okay, calling someone out on social media. That's a bold move. Is this like a common thing for the Plant Slant? Did they do this a lot?
It's interesting you asked that. It's not their only video like this. We've got another one from September 2024 where they tackle, of all things, the carnivore diet. And again, it's this comedic approach. They throw out all these health advice snippets super fast. Stuff like, don't do the carnivore diet, solid advice.
Okay, I'm kind of getting the vibe here, a little snarky.
Yeah, and then there's this part, it's like, what's next? Oh, I know how to do this. So you see this photo where someone shoved a phone up their rectum?
They really went there.
Oh, they did. And then boom, right after. Okay, so what you're gonna do is not that. Got it. It's definitely in your face, like shock value humor.
Not for the faint of heart. But hey, it seemed to be working for them on some level, right?
For sure. It's getting engagement. But, we've also got this other video from January 2025. In this one, the Plant Slant is talking about trusting information online. They start with, don't trust everything you see on the internet, which is, well...
kind of ironic, considering, they're saying it on the internet.
Exactly. There's this self-awareness, almost a wink at the audience, like they know the whole thing's a bit absurd. So we've got humor, we've got controversial topics, and we've got this kind of meta-commentary about social media itself. It's interesting.
It's a unique style, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But we still haven't cracked the code on why they're not breaking through to that next level of success.
True. So what else do we have in the data? There's this other video, October 2024, and it's different. It's about the Plant Slant and their kids, like how they try to encourage a healthy relationship with food.
Okay, so this is getting personal, a bit less social commentary.
Yeah, and they're giving some pretty good advice. Like they talk about good food being food that's safe, not spoiled or something you're allergic to. Then there's bad food, which is the rotten, spoiled stuff.
That makes sense to me.
Right, and they even have this thing about brain foods, not necessarily the healthiest stuff, but foods that just make you feel good.
Interesting. So it's a mix of factual stuff, personal experience. I'm curious, did they cite any sources for this? What's their basis for this brain food idea?
Well, they actually mention PT scans and how the brain runs on sugar. It's pretty unexpected. But this shift from the more edgy stuff to something a bit more, genuine, maybe that's a clue to what's missing for those high-performing posts.
Okay. They need more of that content that's, valuable in the long run.
Exactly. Evergreen content, as they call it. Stuff that people keep coming back to, no matter what's trending.
Timeless, like a classic recipe. So maybe the Plant Slant needs a bit more of that alongside their trendier stuff.
Could be. And this is where it gets even more interesting. The data actually shows the Plant Slant's videos that are around a minute long tend to perform better. Shorter, longer, not as good.
So there's a sweet spot for length.
It seems so. And they're good at hitting it. But maybe, and this is just a thought, maybe that's also a weakness. They're so focused on making these super well-paced, entertaining videos, but are they missing out on content that could have a bigger impact?
I see what you mean. Winning the short game, but what about the marathon?
Exactly. Okay, so what else can we dig into here? Let's talk about sound. The Plant Slant mostly uses original sound, not a lot of trending music or those audio clips.
So they're doing their own thing, building their own sound. But could that also be limiting them?
It's a trade-off, for sure. Trending sounds can definitely help get you discovered. It's like hopping on a wave that's already going.
So another piece of the puzzle, they're prioritizing their own style, their own voice.
Exactly. Okay, let's go deeper. Let's really break down the content itself and see what else we can find. Okay, so remember that video? The one where the Plant Slant is critiquing Bobby's food advice? It's a perfect example of their humor. Like, they'll say something like, cane sugar bad, except in almond and pecan clusters. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, it's like calling out the hypocrisy, all those contradictions you see online, but they do it in this, like, playful way.
Exactly, and they're not afraid to poke fun at themselves either. Like, in that video about trusting stuff online, they actually say, because if not, then I guess I would say 100% cap. Like admitting that being an expert online is kind of a joke.
I love that. It's refreshing. Like, they're not taking themselves too seriously.
Right, but it's not all just jokes and, being ironic. Remember that video with their kids and healthy eating? They go into some pretty in-depth stuff, like the glycemic response to food and the importance of fiber. Clearly, they've done their research.
Yeah, so they're not just, like, entertainers. They actually know what they're talking about, which is important.
Totally. And it goes back to that whole evergreen content idea. If you're giving people actual valuable information, they'll come back for more, even if the, algorithm isn't pushing that video to the top of everyone's feed.
Right. Okay, so we've covered their humor, their relatability, the fact that they're actually knowledgeable.
Mm-hmm.
What about the visuals, though? Like their editing style, graphics? Does the data say anything about that?
Oh, yeah. The Plant Slant uses a whole bunch of different visual techniques. Like, they'll do jump cuts, they use text overlays, they'll even throw in charts and graphs to get their point across.
So they're not just, like, talking heads.
Yeah.
They're putting actual effort into the visuals.
For sure. And it's working. The data shows that those videos, the ones with more dynamic visuals, they get higher engagement.
Yeah, it makes sense. People's attention spans these days. Gotta grab them fast.
Exactly. And the Plant Slant seems to understand that. It's not just about what they're saying, it's also about how they're showing it, enhancing the storytelling.
I'm seeing a pattern here. Plant Slant, they're really good at all those little details, the humor, the visuals, keeping things concise and entertaining.
But as we've talked about, there's something missing when it comes to the bigger picture, the strategy.
Right. So what's the missing piece?
Right.
How do they take all those strengths and actually break through, go viral?
That's the question, isn't it? And I think the answer is understanding the difference between just engaging content and content that has a lasting impact.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think about it this way. Engaging content, it's like a sparkler. All bright and flashy, grabs your attention, but then it fizzles out. But content with lasting impact, that's more like a campfire. It takes a bit longer to build, but it gives off warmth and light for a much longer time.
I love that analogy, sparkler versus campfire. So how does the Plant Slant build more campfires, less of those quick burning sparklers?
It's about looking beyond just the individual video, building a narrative across all their content. Like, what are their core values? What message are they trying to get out there?
So finding their why.
Yes, exactly. And once they have that clarity, they can start making content that's not just engaging, but also, aligned with their mission.
And they need to tell people what to do. Calls to action, right? Like follow me, leave a comment, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Calls to action, they're super important. Turning those viewers into, loyal followers.
Right. Okay, so cohesive narrative, clear calls to action. What else? Anything else that the Plant Slant could do to level up their content?
They can take those strengths they already have, right? And use them to create more of that evergreen content. They know about health and nutrition, so why not a video series on basic cooking? Or plant-based recipes.
Ooh, yeah. And they can still be funny. Like, they can make cooking videos that are actually entertaining.
Exactly. And why stop there? Behind-the-scenes stuff, collaborations with other creators. It's about mixing it up while staying true to themselves,
So diversify, but keep their unique voice.
Exactly. And the most important thing, keep experimenting. Analyze the data. Tweak things. There's no magic formula for going viral, but they can definitely increase their chances if they focus on these things.
So it's like the Plant Slant has all this potential, right? But they're missing that little something extra to really blow up on TikTok.
Yeah, it's almost like they've got all these ingredients, but the recipe isn't quite there yet.
They've got the skills, the humor, the knowledge, but they need to figure out how to put it all together.
Yeah. And this is where, like, thinking bigger comes in. They got to ask themselves, what's the story I'm telling here? What's the message across all these videos?
It can't just be funny or informative like one video at a time. It's got to be bigger than that.
Right. And you know, it's interesting. The data shows us that while the plant slant tries different types of videos, they kind of like fall back on that same style, that, you know, comedic, edgy thing.
So they're in a bit of a rut.
Yeah.
Like, it's working, but it's also holding them back.
Yeah, it's like they found a formula, but maybe they're afraid to break out of it. And that's where, you know, looking at the data is so helpful, because we can see that, well, the funny stuff does well at first. It doesn't really have that, like, staying power.
So it goes back to that campfire idea. The funny stuff is a quick flash, but the more informative, like meaningful videos, they burn longer.
Exactly. And here's another thing, something pretty cool we found. The plant slants videos that have more personal stories, you know, where they're a little bit vulnerable, those actually get more comments, more shares.
So it's not just about being funny or smart. It's also about, like, connecting with people on a human level, letting them see who you are.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the plant slant could do more of that. They've got a great personality. You can tell they're passionate about this stuff. Imagine if they, like, shared more of themselves with the audience.
Right. Maybe they're holding back a little, afraid to be too personal, but that's what really makes people connect with you.
Exactly. And that's what's so cool about data. It can show us, like, what's really hitting home for viewers, you know, on an emotional level.
This has been so eye-opening. So for our listeners out there, what's the big takeaway from all this? What can they learn from the plant slant?
I think the biggest lesson here is that making content, it's always evolving. It's about trying stuff, seeing what happens, and adjusting. No magic formula, you know?
Right. Got to be willing to experiment, learn as you go.
And never underestimate the power of being yourself. People can tell when you're not genuine, so just, you know, be you. Be passionate. Let your personality shine through.
Awesome advice. Thanks for taking it on this deep dive into the plant slant's world.
Of course, it's been fun. And to our listeners, remember, this is just the start. Keep making stuff, keep learning, and most importantly, have fun doing it.
That's a wrap for this deep dive. Catch you next time.